This dog was supposed to die by sunrise, but what he did that night, it shut down an entire restaurant after 20 years. Inside an old restaurant in Vietnam, dozens of dogs sat trapped in rusty cages. Rain pounded the roof, chains rattled in the dark. Some dogs cried, softly. Some shook in fear, but one golden retriever in the very last cage stayed completely silent, watching, waiting. The owner of the restaurant couldn't stop, staring at him. His name was Mr. Quang. For 20 years, this place made him money. For 20 years, trucks arrived before sunrise carrying terrified animals. And for 20 years, he never felt guilty until this dog showed up. The workers called him Lucky, not because he was lucky, because by morning, he was supposed to be gone. Lucky looked exhausted. His fur was muddy from rain. One paw was bleeding badly. But even after everything he'd been through, he still wagged his tail when humans walked by. That bothered Mr. Quang more than fear ever could. Fear made sense. Trust didn't. Late that night, after customers left, one of the workers started spraying down the floor with a hose. Then, suddenly, a tiny puppy in the corner cage started screaming. Its paw got trapped between rusty metal bars. The worker glanced over. "Forget it," he muttered. "It'll stop." But the puppy kept crying, and then Lucky exploded to his feet. For the first time since arriving, he barked loud again. He slammed his body against the cage door so hard the metal shook. Bang, bang, bang! The workers yelled at him to stop, but Lucky wouldn't stop barking. He kept staring at the trapped puppy. That's when Mr. Quang finally walked over, and then he saw it. The puppy's tiny paw was twisted badly between the bars, bleeding onto the floor. Nobody cared except Lucky. That dog was literally trying to save another dog, and suddenly, something inside the old man cracked. For 20 years, he told himself the same lie. They're just animals. They don't feel emotions like humans. But watching Lucky throw himself against steel, trying to protect a terrified puppy, yeah, that lie shattered instantly. Mr. Quang slowly crouched beside the cage and carefully freed the puppy's paw. The tiny dog whimpered in pain. Then something happened nobody expected. Lucky gently leaned forward and licked the puppy's face, comforting him, protecting him like family. One worker laughed awkwardly. "Bro, it's just a dog." But Mr. Quang couldn't answer, because suddenly, he remembered his 6-year-old granddaughter. A few days earlier, she asked him something that wouldn't leave his mind. "Grandpa, why do dogs cry at night?" At the time, he told her not to ask questions. But now, standing in that dark room, he realized something terrifying. He didn't even have an answer himself. That night, after everyone left, Mr. Quang stayed alone inside the restaurant. Rain hammered outside. Lucky lay quietly in his cage watching him. Hours passed in silence. Then, around 3 in the morning, the old man whispered something he had never admitted before. "I'm tired." He stared around the room. Rusty cages, chains, concrete stained by years of suffering, and for the first time in decades, he couldn't breathe. The next morning, workers arrived early, but the restaurant doors were locked. Inside, Mr. Quang stood holding a ring of cage keys with shaking hands. Lucky watched him carefully. Then, click, one cage opened. Another. The dogs slowly backed away in confusion. Some were too scared to move. They had been trapped for so long. They forgot what freedom even felt like. Mr. Quang opened Lucky's cage last. The golden retriever stepped out slowly. The old man expected him to run away, but instead, Lucky walked straight toward him and gently rested his head against the old man's hand. That broke him completely. Mr. Quang collapsed onto his knees, crying for 20 years. Nobody had seen him cry, but one rescued dog destroyed the walls around his heart in seconds. Outside, animal rescue vans pulled up. Neighbors gathered in. Shock. Word spread fast. The restaurant is shutting down. Some people celebrated. Some mocked him. Some called him weak. Others called him brave. But Mr. Quang ignored all of them because for the first time in 20 years, the screaming inside that building had stopped. Weeks later, the restaurant sign disappeared forever. The cages were gone. The walls were painted bright yellow, and something unbelievable replaced the business. A tiny noodle shop. Outside the front door sat a bowl of fresh water for stray dogs, and hanging above the counter was one framed picture. Lucky smiling. Customers always asked about the photo. Mr. Quang always answered with the same sentence. That dog changed my life. Years later, people still visit the little shop asking why he changed, and every single time, the old man gives the same answer. The dogs never stopped being good. We did.